call is coming from inside the house. It's like a horror movie with birds. Hey guys, and welcome to TCR. Sid here. Thanks for clicking on the video. If you haven't done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Today we're going to be talking about getting your incubator ready for some quail eggs. So the first thing that you want to do when you're getting ready to set up your incubator for your quail eggs is clean your incubator out really well. You want to make sure that you do something like a bleach and water solution so that you're killing all the bacteria and stuff in there from your last hatch, whether it was chickens or ducks or whatever, or even if it's a new machine, just to make sure there's no gunk or weirdness in it. And make sure you wipe it out really thoroughly, since birds in general are very susceptible. And since quail have kind of a lower hatch rate of only about 70%, you want to make sure that you're giving them the best possible environment to incubate in. So quail eggs only need to incubate for usually between 16 to 18 days. Very quick turnaround there for your babies, so make sure that you've got your second part, your brooder, set up for them and ready to go in time. You don't have that much time when they're incubating. Quail eggs need to incubate just like chicken eggs at 37.5 degrees Celsius, which is 99.5 degrees Fahrenheit. And in the first 14 days, you want to make sure that you're rotating those eggs, whether it's on a rotating rack that's on a timer, or if you're doing it by hand, several times a day. You want to keep your humidity level in the first 14 days between 40 and 50%. After that, you're going to increase the humidity to more like 60-65%. It's really important for any eggs that you're going to be incubating that when you fire up your incubator, you let it run for at least 24 hours before you start putting your eggs in there. This will make sure that your incubator is holding a steady temperature. In most cases, you're looking for 99.5 degrees Fahrenheit. You can also keep a steady eye on the humidity levels. But this first hatch group that I'm doing is sort of just a test run to see what my fertility rate is, what the viability rate is of the eggs, to just kind of get a feel of them. So this smaller group here is sort of my guinea pigs to see how it goes. And then if these go well, I'll go ahead and start a new batch. The only downside to that is because I don't have any other birds that I need to brood, I will be brooding just a few birds, which is kind of like I wouldn't normally do. But because this is my first time incubating quail, I do want to kind of do a little bit of a trial run to make sure everything's going smoothly before I load this up with like 100 eggs. It's day 15 now, which means yesterday was the day that I stopped hand turning the eggs in the incubator, and they're gonna start popping out of here any day. I also increased the humidity. I've been trying to get it a little over 60%, between 60 and 65%, but it's been so cold that I've had trouble kind of keeping the humidity up with the temperature. And last night we had a fire going in the house, which helped quite a bit. I realized having it by the windows is not necessarily ideal. However, because I was hand turning these and needed to really monitor them, and because I needed to have them set up where I could show and film them, kind of needed them in this spot where they weren't going to get hit, but they were going to be safe. So ideally, you're not putting them by a window, but I did because, well, I'm a rebel. So, and this is my experiment batch anyway, so we're gonna kind of see how this group of quail go. I did mix my males back in shortly before I started collecting these eggs. So, and I have checked eggs out of that batch and they were fertile. So in theory, we should be good. So now we wait a couple more days and I should have little babies. So the brooder. I've had to problem solve a little bit. So I got one of these handy dandy little hot plates that I've got the legs in the container there. I'm gonna use this for the heat source for the quail because they're so small, and because this is gonna be a lot cheaper to run. It's my first time trying to use one of these, so I'm hoping that this test run this week with these guys will determine whether or not I like this thing and whether or not I'm going to use the big one that I ordered for my Cornish, which hopefully it'll work out, but we'll see, because my Cornish come in like another week and a half. So the timing should be just about right to figure out if these are going to work, if I even like them, but we'll see. I've got the brooder mostly set up. I'm gonna go to the feed store and pick up a smaller water to fit in there for them, just because the quail are so small. I wanted to get them a smaller setup. So here we are, day 15. My temp's down a hair right now, but my humidity is up a little bit, so hopefully they start hatching. Oh, I just heard a chirp from in here. It's coming from inside the house. The call is coming from inside the house. It's like a horror movie. Birds. We're just gonna take a peek at my little setup here. This is the big heating plate that I bought, not realizing how big it was, just thinking, oh, I could fit 50 birds underneath it. And this will be great for the Cornish, but this isn't gonna work for these purposes, so I'm gonna be moving this. So I'm just gonna set them in here, and I've got their feeder off to the side, but I'm gonna have them all set up in here. I'm gonna put a little screen on top so nothing gets overly curious. Let's take a look in here too, guys, because I've got one bird. Let's see if she's actually sitting right now. They did this last year and they're doing it again. She started laying her clutch, and this one is always very maternal. It's my old barred rock, and she's laying here on a clutch of ducklings. So let's see, they're gonna raise, there's a couple chicken eggs in there too. So I'm gonna let them see. She's got a nice little clutch started in there. She's doing her thing, huh, Mama? Mama Muscovy. Gonna make some babies? Yeah, I can make some babies. All right, I won't stress you out anymore. Caroline, what are you doing? Hi, Mama. Hi, handsomes. I know, hi. Hi, babies. Okay, guys, it's really early in the morning, and I heard chirping out here. And we've got one that just popped out. It was zippered when I first got up. Look at that little baby. But man, how amazing. Some of you might be wondering what that cardboard is that I have there. This particular incubator has a gap there. And when I've done ducks in here, I have had them actually get their beaks and heads stuck in that crack. And these guys are so little, I was afraid they would fall beneath it. I do feel like it's a design flaw in this particular incubator. So I did put the cardboard down for that reason, so that they don't fall into that crack. Look at that little munchkin. We'll check in on them later. Now I'll leave them in here for about 24 hours before I move them to the brooder, just so they can fluff out and kind of also encourage the others to hatch. I'm in my office where all the magic editing happens, and I had to bring the incubator and the brooder in here because we had a little bit of a mishap. So you may notice I've got like Tupperware containers inside the incubator right now, which obviously not ideal. But the reason for that is because apparently before I even got up this morning, there was one that got through the crack here on the side and slipped down into the water well and drowned. And then so I put blocks in to block all the edges so that as they were hatching that wouldn't happen again. And I still managed to lose 2 more that got around my barricades. So not ideal for quail, this incubator, is what I'm learning, because they're just so teeny tiny. I managed to, redneck ingenuity it and stick a couple of these in here so that obviously the airflow is not quite as ideal, but I'm keeping the humidity up and it's holding really well. And the temp is holding, so we're good. So right now I've got, these were the 2 earlier ones that hatched, and I've got them separate, they're more dried off. And these guys all just hatched within the last 2 or 3 hours, and there's 5 of them in here. And then there's several that are zippered and piping. I'm gonna leave them in here to really fully dry out and kind of get their land legs before I move them into the brooder. I've got the heat plate set up, it's been on. I don't know how I feel about it though, guys. I gotta say, I know everybody swears by these things, but I'm a little nervous it's not gonna be warm enough. We're on day 18, so I think these are duds. I had a few that piped that didn't make it, and I had a couple that jumped ship and didn't make it. But I've got these little guys in here. I've got their food. Now, I'm trying to get them to drink from this nipple because they kept trying to drown themselves. So I've been every couple minutes I click the button for them. I can't string it up too high because then they can't get to it. They're very interested in my fingers. But this little heat plate seems to be doing the trick. They all seem to be doing well. I'm gonna lift it up so you guys can see how many there are. Now we've lost quite a few, but these guys seem to be doing pretty well. But this was my experiment batch. So I have another one coming that's actually like this dripper, but it has a cup at the bottom. I'm liking the heat plate. That seems to be working. They come out when they get a little warm, they go back under, they seem happy. I'm happy with it, especially if it's using less electricity. That's always a good thing. I already started collecting eggs for the next round of hatching, so we'll see how that goes moving forward, but I think we've got a good system now. I think I know what works and what doesn't as far as the incubation. First time incubating them, relatively successful. I think out of, 26 eggs, 9 that didn't hatch. That's not too bad considering their hatch and fertility rate. That part of it went pretty well. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell so you get the notifications.